Well, namaste and good evening to one and all. Money is not just paper denominations now, but various combinations of ones and zeros of the digital world.
Absolutely. And with the technology progressing every day and every minute, where does India as a country stand in the digital world is something for all of us to ponder. I am your host, Vaishnavi.
And I'm your other host, Anagha. We welcome you to today's session where we discuss the future of digital identity in India.
But Anagha, before we jump in, we should we would first like to introduce Tether. Who are we?
So, in a nutshell, we are fintech enthusiasts, but there's more. Tether was conceived by like-minded individuals with backgrounds in the financial services ecosystem. In addition to being a converging point for all things fintech, Tether is a space to learn and grow. The community also functions as an open forum where participants can reach out to the industry experts, making the whole community bigger.
To get to be a part of the community. Well, whether you're a fintech startup looking for investors or a fintech enthusiast wanting to stay up to date with the latest happenings of the fintech world, Tether is the place to be. Presenting to all of you a small glimpse of Tether through a video.
The strength of the wolf is the strength of the pack. The strength of the pack is the strength of the wolf. Since our founding, M2P has wanted to give back to the community we grew from, which led to the birth of Tether. Tether is a community for like-minded people from across the globe. This includes startup founders, fintech professionals, students, and enthusiasts. Tether, with thousands of members like you, will act as a catalyst in the growth of the fintech industry. Tether also acts as an open forum where participants can reach out to industry experts, learn, and grow. You can achieve mentorship from industry leaders, mentorship for funding, an opportunity to network with peers, and access to a world of events apart from a host of services. Join your peers today. Grow together, tether together.
Log on to the tether.community website and become a member. And if you're looking for the link, it's available on the chat section of the screen right now.
I hope you're clicking on the link. Digital identity is one of the most significant technology trends to exist today. It has transformed public and private institution interactions, basically. Increased digital and online interactions, customer demand for seamless identification across applications, demand for security and privacy, financial and reputational risk of identity theft and fraud, government digitization activities, and rising regulatory requirements are driving interest in digital identity.
There are several fintech startups in India that contribute to the growth of this industry by seamless identity verification for banks and other financial institutions. In our panel discussion today, we have eminent speakers who will address the significance of digital identity solutions in fintech and the issues driving digital identity in today's world.
Absolutely, Vaishnavi. And to enlighten the community who is joined in today about the future of digital identity in India, we have an illustrious panel of speakers.
Hearty welcome to Shri G.T. Venkateshwar Rao, IRS, who was on deputation to the state government of Telengana and was the Commissioner of Electronic Service Delivery, Special Commissioner of E-Governance, and the Managing Director of the Telangana State Technology Services from August 2015 to August 2022. He is now the Principal Commissioner of Income Tax. He was the first officer from the Income Tax Department to serve as First Secretary Economics in Singapore from 2010 to 2013. I mean, I could go on with his list of illustrious career. He's the recipient of the Prime Minister Prize for Excellence in Public Administration in April 2010 for the use of data mining to detect tax evasion. And he was also honored with the National E-Governance Award in 2018, the Digital India Award in 2019, the Chairman's Award at the World Congress of IT in 2018, the NASSCOM AI Game Changer Award in 2022, and host of other awards from Scoach, CSI, etc., for the work done in the field of e-governance and m-governance in Telangana. I am literally out of breath, and it's an honor to have him here. Welcome to today's discussion, sir.
A very warm welcome to Mr. Rajat Maheshwari, who is Mastercard's Vice President of Product Management in the Asia Pacific based in Singapore. In his current role, he is responsible for Mastercard's identity business for regional governments, which includes creating an identity ecosystem that can help expedite and accelerate identification procedures, decrease the cost of onboarding, manage customer risk, and prevent fraud. Glad to have you here, sir.
And to moderate this eminent panel, let's welcome Mr. Vamsi, who is Syntizen's co-founder and CEO. He has over 8 years of experience in the field of biometric and digital identification solutions. So Syntizen is an Indian registered startup company incubated in India's T-Hub, the country's largest government-backed startup incubator. It's also a member of India Stack and a part of NASSCOM 10K startup. His organization is currently processing more than 10 million digital identities every day, where they provide services to 5 state governments and 30 plus BFSI clients. So warm welcome to you too, sir.
Before we pass on the mic to Vamsi sir for the panel discussion, a quick note to our audience. If you have any questions, I'm pretty sure you will have a lot of questions. So any questions that you might have for the speakers or even our moderator, please do share your questions on the Q&A section, which you can find either at the bottom of your screen or at the right-hand side of your screen. Because right after the panel discussion, we will have a small Q&A session. One more thing, we have quite a few questions from that you have sent in on social media as well. So we will have a small Q&A session right after the discussion. So please to put in your questions there.
Big round of applause. We are once again welcoming the panel for today's webinar. On that note, let's flag off the event and we are handing it over to Mr. Vamsi to take this forward.
Thank you so much, Vaishnavi and Anaga. Thanks for lovely introduction. Good evening, everyone. Myself, Vamsi from Syntizen, and today I'm moderating the session alongside with Rajat as well as GT Venkateshwar Rao in this today's event. So, yeah, just to give a very brief background about the digital identity solutions all across. So we heard about paper-based identity. We have Aadhaar cards, we have PAN cards, we have voter cards, we have passport. So the next big thing that's going to happen is how we can prove the digital trust of an identity. It's not about having a colored printout card we are holding on our hand. It's about how we are going to prove the identity with a digital trust in place. Having said that, after pandemic, most of the things have been moved online and many things are happening virtually in a contactless manner. It's equally important to prove how a person's identity can be verified online. So the digital trust plays a major role, whether he is the owner of that identity or not, and how we can prove the identity always plays a major role in the moving forward. Yeah. So joining side with me along Mr. Rajat, who is doing a phenomenal work with respect to digital identity in this space. Mainly on the biometric world. He is called as the biometric man of Mastercard. Good evening, Mr. Rajat. Yeah. So, Mr. Rajat, I just want to understand what's latest happening in Mastercard with respect to biometric identity. What is something exciting us to for today's event?
So I think most of the participants here might be wondering that what Mastercard is doing into this space and why at first place we are into digital identity. So let me start with that first. See, trust is paramount to our ecosystem, I would say, and the other most important or most critical thing for us is financial inclusion. So if you see back in 2006, when Mastercard founded Mastercard Foundation, that's probably one of the biggest foundation after Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. The primary motive was to look into financial inclusion. Our CEO was puzzled that how we are able to address only one third of the world population. Why we cannot cover the complete globe? So with that background, we had Mastercard Foundation, and it's doing a tremendous job. But during one of the meetings back in 2016, where Mastercard Foundation presented to our board, if I have to summarize the feedback in one line, it was that there is no financial inclusion without identity inclusion, and that's where Mastercard started the journey on ID. We started looking into what we can do in this space, how digital identity is going to help our customers, the end users, and that's how we started looking into trust. And I would love to answer more of your questions later on. That what exactly we are in doing is doing in this space, what role we intend to play in this space.
Great. Thanks, Rajat. So just to give a little more curiosity to the audience, when it comes to biometrics, mainly the digital identity-based biometrics, no two people's fingerprints look same. All 10 fingerprints of a person is different. Their facial is different. The retina scan also looks different, unique. And also the palms of every person is unique. And no two people type the keyboard same way, or no two people walk the same way. So there's various ways of identifying people unique using the biometrics technology. Biometrics is nothing but not only fingers, but any form of biometrics can be is unique today in the market. So as on today in India, we are working with fingerprints, we are working with retina, we are working with face, and some of the projects in palm technology as well. Guide, that is a walking pattern, also is different, or the keyboard strokes and all is something Mastercard excites us in the last conference, I guess. So how two people also type that differently is also something which creates a lot of interest for us in the last meeting. So just to start with, Rajat, I just want to ask you, what is the role of digital identity in fintech space, and how customer onboarding mechanisms can be created much more advanced using this digital identity tech?
Yeah, so great question, Vamsi, and I would also like to comment on the biometric piece. What you just said earlier, that yes, it's pretty unique, and it's necessary to not to rely on a particular biometric, and that's where Aadhaar has done a great job of collecting biometrics of fingerprints. They do have iris or retina scan, and also the face capture. So if people who have who are working on daily wages or in the fields, they tend to lose the fingerprint, or the prints are not that visible, and that's why it's always best to have more modalities captured, because one or the other or something will work in case with people with physical challenges, or and so yeah, I think it's a perfect ecosystem to what India and Aadhaar has created by capturing more than one biometrics for individuals. Now, coming to financial side of this is, see, it's a journey. If you see a consumer opening up a bank account, from the time you get a credit or debit card issued, and then on top of that, you start doing the transactions on the network. Digital identity can play the role in all these different stages. First of all, to make sure the onboarding is secure, the onboarding is easy, and then at transaction level, to make sure that the right or genuine person is performing the transaction. So in if you see onboarding journey, then today I'll just narrate the example of SIM card. I was standing at Malaysia airport in KL Airport couple of weeks ago, and I saw the journey of a foreigner getting a SIM card. And essentially, it's like you first of all you queue up at the counter, and then once your turns come, the person is scanning your passport, scanning your visa, and then you get the SIM card after 10-15 minutes of processing. And then too, the person is not leaving the counter because he or she is not sure whether the SIM card will be enabled or not. So this is the difference what digital ID can make in onboarding and customer. I'm not taking an example of bank. It's pretty much similar process that you need to submit so many documents. You need to, I mean, in older days, you might need to get the reference also that if somebody has a bank account in bank A and he or she can refer to you, then it's easier for you to open up the bank account. So that chain of trust, which was there in physical world in the past, has been transformed into digital world with digital ID, and it can play a great role in onboarding. And that's what we have seen with Aadhaar, that how easy it's to open up a bank account using your digital ID rather than using all the physical documents. And at transaction level, it provides definitely a means to validate that the genuine user is performing the transactions. It's not about me having your credentials or me having your cards and trying to perform the transaction because of if we can get data from ID, what we are doing today in Singapore with national ID, it can really help with the additional data to be able to see if genuine cardholder, first of all, the card is genuine or not. That's our bread and butter. That's what we do for our business. But on top of that, whether the genuine person is holding this card and doing the transaction, that's something where ID can play a great role as well.
Thank you, Mr. Rajat. We also have GT sir on the call. Sir, good evening. Welcome to Tether event for the day, sir.
Yeah, good evening, Vamsi. Good evening, Mr. Rajat Maheshwari, and good evening, all other fellow panelists and audience. Thanks for the invite.
Thank you, sir. We just started, sir. So as a start, so just wanted to give intro about what GT sir has done. So there's a humongous amount of work that has done with respect to the digital identity transformation or converting a lot of traditional citizen-centric services into electronic form in the form of paperless and presenceless and contactless anywhere kind of services have been launched in the state of Telengana. Sir, just want to start with what is the role of digital identity solutions in citizen services and mainly in the government side of it? Sir?
Yeah, see, actually, I'll speak less and I have a video, that explains what I want to say. But a very brief introduction is that, see, government exists. Any democracy, if you take the true test of a democracy, is that the citizen should be at the center of governance, and the citizen convenience should be the ultimate objective of the entire government service delivery. So basically, that's what the aim of Telangana state. And in this process, when citizen convenience is the central to all our service delivery. So what is very important is how do we provide the service by a government to the citizen, in a manner that he need not visit a government office, and then disconnect the bureaucracy and the citizen. So these are the key themes, basically disconnecting the citizen and the bureaucracy, and therefore what we call presenceless, contactless, anytime, anywhere service delivery. So this has been our core, one of, I would say, a philosophy on which we have worked in the last few years. And this we have achieved through a combination of smartphone and using AI, ML, big data, and emerging technologies, even let's say part of the blockchain, etc. So I request Vamsi, basically, let me stop here because the video explains the various types of what we have done, and I hope you will all appreciate that some of the initiatives what you are going to see are not only some, in fact many of them are first in India, and even globally you will have only very few examples. And another this thing is that everything is driven with citizen convenience as the central theme. So Vamsi, please play.
Sure. Thank you so much. Can I have the video, please?
Year after year, Telangana has been adjudged as one of the leading e-governed states in India. What has been keeping the state ahead in the race with its peers is the vision of a digital Telangana.
So Vamsi, please increase the volume.
And its execution under the leadership of
Sure.
Honorable Chief Minister Shri K. Chandrasekhar Rao and Honorable IT Minister Shri K.T. Rama Rao. Democracy is the government of the people, by the people and for the people, said Abraham Lincoln. In line with this, citizen convenience with complete transparency should be at the center of governance, along with citizen service delivery. Presently, Estonia, a European country, is very near to this goal through their famous X Road platform. Citizens visit government office only for 3 important services relating to marriage and purchase of immovable properties. All other services are in presenceless and contactless manner through smartphone and computer. The Government of India sends senior officers to Estonia regularly to study how this was achieved there. Striving towards this vision, Telangana government has started exploring the use of emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, big data, blockchain, drones, etc. in the government. Authentication of citizens' identity is a key prerequisite of service delivery by government departments. For example, at airports, security verifies the identity of passengers before letting them enter the airport. At examination centers, the identity of students is verified before allowing them to enter the premises. Be it for renewal, change in address, or to get a duplicate driving license issued, license holders have to visit a designated transport office. Similarly, government pensioners have to submit an annual life certificate by visiting their office, bank, or Me Seva center for biometric authentication. A passport holder needs to visit the passport office to submit the details for the renewal of the passport. Voting process in the country demands physical presence, and the million-dollar question is whether voting in general elections can be done through smartphones. In all above examples, physical presence is insisted historically to perform 3 manual checks. First, the name in the application form with the name on the ID card. Second, the photograph in the application form with the photo ID card and the face of the citizen. Third, an indirect check of looking at the person present. IT-ENC Department of Government of Telangana started exploring in early 2019 whether the above 3 checks can be done on smartphones through an intelligent IT application with the help of artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data, deep learning with the same efficacy as that of a manual process. AI, ML, deep learning technologies have made huge progress in terms of speed and accuracy in the last few years, giving hope to the possibility of this vision. After a lot of research and study, an innovative solution called Real-Time Digital Authentication of Identity (RTDAI) was developed. RTDAI provides an easy, convenient, and correct authentication of citizens' identity through a smartphone, thus ushering in the utopian objective of governance through Presenceless, that is, providing contactless and paperless services to the citizens anytime and anywhere. ITEC Department and Transport Department, Government of Telangana have developed the Friendly Electronic Service of Transport, FEST, which is built on RTDAI platform. FEST allows the citizens of Telangana to avail numerous services of the Transport Department through a smartphone from the comfort of their homes without having to visit the Transport Department 24/7/365 basis. At the same time, without compromising on the accuracy or process efficiency. FEST service is provided through T-App Folio, the M-Governance initiative of Government of Telangana. Citizens need to submit details such as name, father's name, address, driving license or learning license number, address proof, and upload a selfie and all the required documents for that particular service. FEST processes the provided information using a 3-factor authentication by leveraging state-of-the-art technologies. Artificial intelligence-based liveness check to ensure that the selfie uploaded is from a live person at that moment and not a photograph or a selfie taken earlier. This is the most important test since the identification is done remotely. Big data-based demographic check to match names in application and department database handling multiple name variations. Deep learning-based image comparison to match selfie with photograph in the department database handling many variations in the photos. Post successful 3-factor authentication. The citizen can pay the service fee through a smartphone and avail the service. Launched in July 2020, 17 services across 4 categories: driving license, learner license, registration and permit are offered through FEST as of now. More services are scheduled for release in due course. Transport Department envisions that all services except where driving test or physical inspection of the vehicles is involved will be provided in a contactless and presenceless manner through FEST. FEST is gaining traction and present daily transactions are now around 400. About 300 driving licenses are being renewed on Sundays. A driving license renewal through a smartphone from home on an office holiday, which was unthinkable, is now made possible through leveraging the power of the emerging technologies. Telangana Transport Department is the first in the country to build this kind of platform leveraging emerging technologies to provide contactless, presenceless and paperless services to citizens, making government services efficient, convenient and transparent. Telangana has launched similar applications in other departments. Pensioners' Life Certificate through Selfie was launched in 2019. About 80,000 pensioners have used it so far till July 2021, some of them being outside India. Registration for Degree Online Services Telangana in 2020 and 2021. About 45,000 students have used this application. Authentication of voters in 10 polling booths in municipal elections in January 2020.
It's very pleasure for selecting Kompally for launching of the pilot program of this app. That is a T-App Folio, and it's the voter face authentication app. So by that, when the voter comes down to the PS, he can enjoy, he can cast the vote by having the mobile camera capture app, that is which cannot be downloaded from the Play Store. It was only been a program done by the TSTS, that is Telangana State Technology Services only.
A pilot project for voting through smartphones is being done in collaboration with IIT Chennai. Here, RTDAI is being used for identification along with blockchain for storing and non-tampering of data after voting. All these are path-breaking initiatives relevant to all states of India and are applicable in many other countries too for transparent and convenient service delivery. Even globally, there are very few examples of how AI, ML, and deep learning are used in conjunction with M-governance in citizen services. With unstinting support from the Honorable Minister for IT and all other departments, Telangana has become a pioneer in the use of emerging technologies. Telangana has declared the year 2020 as the year of AI and unveiled an AI framework for use of AI in the government. There are 40 crore smartphones in the country and their number is increasing every day. By harnessing the power of AI, ML and deep learning, together with the phenomenal reach of smartphones, a paradigm shift is being brought in the way citizens interact with the government in the state. Marching towards its vision of a digital Telangana, The government dedicates these solutions to the citizens of Telangana for a hassle-free tomorrow through presenceless, contactless and paperless delivery of government services anytime and anywhere, 24/7/365.
That's a very great word, sir. I think most of the initiatives that we have seen are first of its kinds in the country, whether it is the driving license, think RTA department's initiatives to go online, whether it is e-voting or the other initiatives that we have seen, sir. It's really, the work is phenomenal with respect to digital identity-based services which are going online. What is the latest that's happening now, sir, in Telangana with respect to digital identity?
So as you have seen, actually, we have explored with multiple departments, and including, what's very unique is e-voting. That is, can you vote through a smartphone? Actually, we had done a pilot in one district where it's a mock polling. People were allowed to register and then vote. Interesting results have come now. I think Bihar State Election Commission is also now trying to explore further, but that's a smaller part. The basic focus is that how do we increase, how do we take this to more and more departments? Actually, I think you might have understood this is some kind of parallel platform to Aadhaar. If there are some challenges for whatever reason, you are not able to use Aadhaar, I think this way, it helps with the very, very same accuracy. And primary focus is that, the privacy issues, etc., which I think their Aadhaar has that. It overcomes that because you're using a citizen and his data, what is available with that particular department. But, and I think, it has a lot of application in the private sector also, because as I said, it's a alternative way of eKYC. As like, if you have a citizen data with you in your database, identity, that is demographic plus photo, you can use this technology, whichever it is, even in private sector. So of course, in government, our idea is to try more and more departments. We want to explore further. How do we use it? And as I said, the ultimate objective is that all service, as far as possible, all services should be on a smartphone.
Thank you so much, sir. As GT sir is talking about the citizen services running on a smartphone, Rajat, question to you. How are you looking at the cross-border use cases of digital identity? A person coming from Malaysia or Singapore to India or vice versa, how the digital identity help a person to prove his identity as well as trust?
Yeah, I think that's something which is definitely Mastercard is looking into, Vamsi. I think many countries, if you see in the region, let's talk about Asia Pacific. So some of the countries where identity was government-driven initiative, like what we see in India or what Singapore has done, it's completely driven by public sector, and the government has done great job with foundational identity and also functional identity. While in some parts of the world you see that like Thailand, where the banks, central bank and many banks came together and they have formed the identity for the citizens, and then they collaborated with government. So it's a great example of public-private partnerships. While in some part of the APAC region, countries like Australia and New Zealand, they essentially came out with the trust framework. And then it's a level playing field where public sector, private sector both can come and build the identity services. So what you see is that no country is following up something which can resonate with the other, which means that different countries are on different kind of trust frameworks or different identity implementation. So there has to be an entity playing the role of orchestration in between and making sure that if Indian citizen is traveling to Singapore with for tourism or for leisure, will be able to check in into a hotel or to rent a car or to access or buy new SIM card using Aadhaar and not necessarily taking out your passport. So that's something which is where we are playing an active role. And that's probably hopefully, if everything goes well, you will be able to see a pilot next year where we are going to take this out live in market.
Yeah, so looks very interesting. So you're saying about the interoperability of identities between the countries, adding the trust layer for cross-border utilization is what you're talking about?
Yes, definitely, Vamsi. See, the most important thing when you interoperate or when you take citizens' data from one country and get it accepted in another one, the most important piece is the liability and the assurance framework. Whether how is the, let's say, country A has built the identity on after checking two documents, and then they have given assigned the identity to that person, while there is another country B, which has taken four documents and then created the identity. It's same like if one document says that my name is Rajat, so assurance level is one, while if three documents says that yes, my name is Rajat, it's in passport, it's my driver's license, it's my Aadhaar card, then the assurance level is definitely higher. So today, if you see it between different countries, the assurance level is not at the same level. The way identity is created is not same. So definitely, this is one of the major considerations when we talk about taking the identity data from one country to another country. The second piece is the liability, where if the other side, for some good reason, says that well, this is not the genuine person's data, or something has gone wrong, or there is some fraud, then how do we resolve those kind of problems? And that's where we think we can play an important role, because we have been doing the work of orchestration with our payment network, operating with around, I would say, more than 190 countries and jurisdictions, and making sure that the disputes and liability and assurance, everything works well. So we are trying to set up similar network for identity and playing the same role, so that we can interoperate.
Great. So you are saying that we are going to have soon a payments network kind of network between identity as well, to prove the identity cross-border, right?
Yeah, that's the
That's fantastic. So sounds very great, and I hope this comes into reality soon. Looks like you are doing a great job. Like in 80s, what happens in payments now, the same thing is happening in digital identity for a cross-border platform. Correct?
it's if you see, I mean, again, not going to give a long answer, but if you see, then identity issued in one country, it gets accepted in another country, it becomes a powerful driver of economic growth. And the inclusivity is there. We can solve so many numerous cases around. It's like when citizens are traveling, one of the big problem they have is that how do they prove who they are, and there are so many frauds happening with the fake documents, with fake IDs. So this can solve almost all of those issues, and bring ease and safety for when you are transacting beyond the borders as well.
Great, great. That's fantastic. So a question to GTV sir. After the impact of pandemic, mainly on the citizen-centric services, how Telangana is looking at shifting from a contact-based to contactless technologies. And also, I heard you many times about the three-factor authentication, whether it is the face match or face liveness, or also about the demographic matching based tech. Can you talk a little about how Telangana is shifting from a contact to contactless technologies, sir?
Yeah. So, of course, I would say, if you have seen in the video, actually, we started this work somewhere in 2019. So we were basically, I mean, it's not really out of the pandemic or whatever. The whole idea was in 2018-19 itself. Actually, we looked at the Estonia and said, if it was done there, can we also try to do it here? If not on that scale and that level, at least we should make a beginning. So that's how we started, maybe early 2018, and then early 2019, and then the first project we rolled out was the pensioners' life certificate through selfie, because we said old people have to visit office for every year to give their life certificate. So if we can show that it can be done, that they can submit a digital life certificate just by uploading a selfie to a smartphone, so that would do two things. One is, of course, the demonstrating the power of technology of AI, ML, and big data. As I said, three factors: AI-based liveness detection, then big data and some ML-based demographic check, and then deep learning-based image comparison. So the technology, that it works is one. Secondly, this was an interesting particular application where it is helping some old people who really require that kind of thing. So it's a very interesting combination where government is trying to using the most latest technologies, trying to address the problem of the senior citizens. So therefore, the government's vision is very clear. I think not only Telangana, across the entire country, all the states, and perhaps globally also, but certainly more in India, is that more and more services should be provided without the citizen coming to the office. See, that we have achieved in a very significant way, because we are able to do Aadhaar authentication where they have to do in some e-seva center. They will never visit the office. So not visiting the office has already been achieved, I would say, in a very, very great way in the country already. The next step is, even why should you even go to that particular center? Let's say e-seva or ration card, you are still going somewhere. So can you even dispense that, is what the next step. Using the mobile, that is a smartphone, and the power of this AI, ML, and deep learning. So I think all the states are trying. Now, the pensioners' life certificate through selfie, what we have done in Telangana, Government of India has done now. They have opened for their pensioners, including defense pensioners. That's about 45-50 lakhs people will benefit out of this. And then Aadhaar itself has now come with the facial recognition. And it's again more or less on the same lines what we have rolled out. So I think the government's intentions are very clear, that the transparency in administration and citizen convenience in administration, these technologies can be leveraged.
Great. So moving forward, we can see almost all the services in the state, as you said, except the registrations or the driver's test. Most of them may move online with a smartphone sitting anywhere. We can start availing the services. All I need to do is to prove my digital trust, just to show my face to the camera, and then prove the liveness, do the face match, and then do the demographic check, and do all the payments online. And all the services can be availed online. So that's a great service that can be availed to any citizen. So Rajat, on that note, as we are seeing right from the financial to non-financial services, moving everything online, the importance of biometrics, whether it is the touchless biometrics or fingerprints or face or retina, is becoming very, very crucial moving forward. So how can we see the digital trust can be safeguarded with respect to the facial biometrics, to ensure that there is no tampering or there is no fake identity has been proven online? What are the measures that the industry is taking moving forward to ensure that the biometrics are digitally valid and trustable?
Yeah, great question, Vamsi. So yes, definitely, as industry, I mean, before we started looking into digital ID, if you remember back in 2015, some of the big mobile phone manufacturers said that we are going to do the payment using phone, because there are wallets coming on devices. And for the authentication, they wish to use biometrics. At that time, as payment industry, we had no clue how do we map the security of 4-digit PIN on traditionally, which our industry has relied on. How do we map this security to the security of biometrics? And being a regulated entity, we will be asked questions later on by the regulation that if something goes wrong, that okay, forget the device vendors, what you were doing. So from that time, yes, we started looking into how we can evaluate biometrics. How do we make sure that whether a particular biometric modality is meeting the requirements meeting the industry requirements around false match rate, false non-match rate, liveness, as mentioned by GT sir as well, that it's very important, and I completely agree that it's one of the key factors, especially some biometric modalities like face, which are prone to frauds because my fingerprint is usually not on social medias, though I have beautiful hands, but still nobody captures them and put it on social media. While the face, if you see, it's on LinkedIn. People have faces on Facebook or any other social media channels. You can have your face. People can take your face, can create the mask, or even use some other technologies to spoof. So liveness plays a very important role in case of few modalities, and we make sure that modalities like face, there is optimal liveness measures taken to make to ensure that it's the genuine customers. So here you see GT sir, for you as well. It's the mask done by a famous artist in Japan. So there is some story around this. This artist did the mask for James Cameron movie Avatar, which came back in 2009, and he came all the way from Japan to do this mask for me. And essentially, today as well, wherever my face is registered, I can effectively open or access that device using this mask. So there is a challenge for liveness, but definitely I think the intent behind creating these kind of things, these kind of artifacts, is to make sure that whenever we are endorsing any technology, whenever we are bringing new products out in the market, they can meet these kind of standards, and our consumers should feel safe when they are transacting online.
Thanks, Rajat ji, for sharing a very interesting a way of. We understand yes, these are the challenges, and there will always be people do ask questions whenever I speak this. So we have any new systems, we have what is called type 1 and type 2 errors. Type 1, eligible person denied access to a benefit. Type 2 is ineligible person somehow was able to get into, I think, the kind of example what you are showing. So yes, that's a challenge. But I keep telling, my personal view is that you can never reach, let's say, you can never stop type 2 completely. But it should be as low as possible, and the benefits that the new system gives should far outweigh than the smallest possible type 2 error you have. So to that extent, it is fine. But ideally, yes, there should be no type 2. But, the human brain is always, I think the other side is always sharper. So you will always have this. But yes, we need to work on how to keep that minimum.
Definitely, sir.
Yeah. So there's a lot of new initiatives as well that are coming up with respect to active liveness or passive liveness to ensure as many layers as possible to prove that this is a real face. It's not a silicon mask or a flexi or a photo of a photo or a video of a photo. So all the tech companies today working on digital identity is trying to establish that layer of trust that the person sitting in front of the camera is a real person. And the face advancements as well have been humongously has been grown a lot. Whether the age difference is 20 years or whether they have beards or turbans or glasses or masks, all of these things has already been taken care. Moving forward, it's all about the liveness factor, which is maturing day by day. I think one day we will also see the UPI kind of rails with biometric-based payment systems in place. Rajat, any clue for us on what's cooking on Mastercard with respect to biometric-based payments moving forward?
Yeah, we have also started looking into this from lately. We have, if you have heard the news about Amazon Go stores in United States, where consumer can go to this manless stores, pick up the things, and then once for the billing, you just need to wave your palm and walk out of the store. Essentially, your palm is registered or linked to your credit or debit card or any other payment instrument, and that is being used to perform the transactions. So definitely biometric based payments are gaining traction. It's gaining popularity. I'm sure that we are trying things in this space beyond Palm as well. One of the key challenges with this is when you are doing identification. If it's I would say the data size what you're looking at is small, the identification is accurate, and also it's performed quickly. So let's say I'm doing payment with my face, and there are 1,000 users in the database. Then it's fairly easy and not complicated, and the accuracy will be high as well. Against if you see where we have a large population in India of 130 crores, if you see that kind of population on a database, then finding an individual is itself is a big challenge. So yes, there will be challenges with going completely on identification, but yes, there will be a combination of approaches available where you can probably put your account number and then you validate yourself with biometrics, with face, and initiate the payments. But yeah, numerous use cases available. Once you identify, once you're able to link the individual to the device, and you're able to authenticate successfully that individual, then payments or non-payment, numerous use cases are available.
Great. That's fantastic. I think we are very near to seeing a combination of account number plus biometrics to also make a payment in place. Tell me one thing about the passwordless authentication systems. Using the biometrics is something is also getting good traction to ensure there's a lot of softwares that we use on a daily basis. And one after the other, eventually we're moving on to a passwordless authentication system for logging into the softwares with the foundational ID as well. So what is your take on using foundational ID for as an OAuth kind of factor to logging into the softwares?
Well, yeah, it's see, I think we need to advance with new technologies, new things coming up. I am not a firm believer of putting one factor over another. See, when we try to authenticate an individual, we look at three factors. Let's take the example of simple card payment. Then we look at possession. We look at either the knowledge factor or physical factor. So knowledge factor is something you remember, something you know. It can be your PIN, pattern, or password, while physical factors are all your biometrics. So I am a firm believer that it has to be a combination, and these should always go in hand, rather than saying that okay, we are going to eliminate passwords from the world. I am not a firm believer of that, but yes, let's see how the world is moving.
Great, thanks for that. And GT sir, just wanted to also ask you about, since we are driving the entire services using the digital identity, what is our take on the privacy side of the story with respect to safeguarding citizens' identity as well as the associated services?
Yeah, so this is very very important, but also basically this is a challenge which needs to be addressed. So at present, of course, one is that all the as far as possible, all the technologies are hosted within the government data center. That's at least first thing what we are able to do. And secondly is that, as you have seen, different number of applications, each one of which is only using that particular database, for delivering that particular service. So if the transport department is using it, it is only doing for renewal of driving license or all other services. It's not being, let's say, combined with others, this thing. So yes, the data, because the state data centers are fairly, I would say reasonably robust. Nobody can say that it's this thing, and with decent security in place. But certainly this is an area I think where we need to work more. Maybe the government also has to come out with certain laws. Legal position also is required. I think, as you know, as all of us know, that work is going on that. Perhaps after that, little more clarity will emerge as to, because that would cover citizen consent also, and then privacy consent, and then you have to have a balance between the two. That's how do you strike the balance is what I think at present, one of these things is citizen, I would say the government is more authority. The privacy aspect is not really respected that much. But then certainly the Data New Act would certainly put that in place, and then perhaps give a boundary between privacy of the citizen, the consent of the citizen, and the governance objectives. See, you have to strike balance between these two. These three. For better governance, how far you can go, in terms of citizens' privacy, and how far you can go, how you cannot go. That's where the balance has to be there. But I think it's evolving. At present, I would say it's little more in favor of government as of now, but certainly it will change.
Great, sir. So as you said, striking the balance between privacy, consent, and citizen convenience services is something now everybody is looking at. One side, we are availing the services in a fantastic way. Having said that, in Aadhaar, it's already been started. The tokenization of identity while we are performing a transaction is already in place in Aadhaar. So whenever we perform a transaction, new tokens will be generated, and the identity will be put anonymous with respect to the transactional data. So I hope the same with the foundational trust framework that Rajat, from the international side of the story, when we are going on a cross-border identity, I feel from the privacy standpoint, we are keeping this in place alongside with consent of the citizen.
Definitely. That's the foundation of the identity network, what we have built.
Great. So on that note, so as I told you, there's unique ways of identifying people, whether it is with fingerprint or retina or a palm or a facial technology or a guide technology. Just by walking pattern also we can recognize people, and also by keystroke. No two people type that keyboard also the same way. Rajat, could you please cover up a few points on the keystroke biometrical behavior of people as well?
Yeah, definitely. This is one of the specialties. I would say this is something what we have done for Singapore government as well, because the penetration what you see for digital ID here is massive. For 3.5 million citizens, they have close to 2,000 digital services offered by 800 or more public and private sector entities. So for anything and everything, you need SyncPass access. And definitely when you see that everything is boiling down to one SyncPass, then you see the fraudsters also putting their focus on trying to get into the system and trying to break into the system using phishing ways to extract username, password, or SMS, OTP, and try to enter second factor. So we have integrated our fraud and analytics solutions with the stack here, and we are processing every single transactions. So whenever I do a national ID transaction here in Singapore, we essentially get the notification and we make sure with a risk score that is it the same person trying to access or somebody else. And we look into 100 plus data points with respect to your device. How do you are behaving on your device? Whether these are the kind of web pages you access on daily basis, the way you hold your device, with what angle you have kept your device when you're typing on your device, the typing cadence. Usually, if you see, the behavior will shift, Vamsi. If I am typing my name Rajat, which I'm typing from probably when I was 15 years old, that's the time I saw my computer first time. So from that time, if I'm typing my name, it's pretty consistent. However, if I give you my name, family name, my passport details, etc., the typing cadence will change because you are not inherently typing that information every time. So that is something what we observe, we look into, and then we give a risk score whether it's the same person trying to access or somebody else. And that's very useful because it's passive mechanism. You're not introducing any new friction to your user. You're not asking them to do additional things, but in the background you're looking into these things to make sure that it's the same person accessing the device.
Great. So you mean the password of mine? So if I enter it, or if some of my friend is entering it, your systems will detect and say, "Hey, it is not Vamsi, but someone else is entering his password," and block him. So that's the behavioral biometrics that Rajat is talking about. So on that note, over to you, team. So it's a great session that we had with GT sir and Rajat. Thank you so much to both of you from Syntizen as well as from the Tether community. Yeah, over to you guys.
Yeah, thank you, Vamsi, and thank you, Mr. Rajat Maheshwari, and thanks everyone. Thanks for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, GT sir. Thank you, Vamsi. Thank you all.
Thank you. So I think moving forward, we have a Q&A session from the team. We will open the session for the Q&A. Yeah.
Thank you so much, everybody. And just to tell you, conversations about future nudges, learning, unlearning, and relearning. So, which is best done by what better way than questioning? So let's open the forum for questions. So we have a couple of questions from our audience and social media. In fact, our first question is for GT Venkateshwar Rao sir. So it said that India is the laboratory for the rest of the world in the field of biometric IDs. So what are your views on it, sir?
Yeah, see, yeah, I think, in terms of basically scale, I think no other country can match our country. So I would say it's a great credit to the entire leadership, which has built this Aadhaar framework, that more than 120 crore people have been given digital identity, in less than 10 years. And not only that, and the way more and more, where it's being used in multiple scenarios. Probably, many new cases they would have never envisaged also at the time of design that it could be used here, because Indians are, very smart and brilliant. So therefore, two things. One is that we are able to build such a robust platform on such a scale, unparalleled anywhere in the world. And secondly, the way it is used for transactions. I think Vamsi can throw more light, maybe about at least 100 to 100 million authentications or more. How much is Vamsi every day average?
Sir, currently we are performing around 10 million identity transactions on a daily basis.
So please look at that figure. So, therefore, these two, that is not only we have built, but we are using it extensively in, across the country. I think this itself, these two things, any country should just come and straight away understand from us how you have done it. I think, a lot of countries are really looking at our model already.
Thank you so much for that, GT sir. Actually, there's a question from our live audience also, which is on the Q&A section as well. So there, I think GT sir has answered one question about the identity difference between Telengana and Aadhaar as well. For the audience, you can refer to the Q&A section which has answered there. It will be visible to you also. There is one question, since we're speaking about the growth of digital identity in India. One question by Jayendra which says, what are the challenges to the advancement and growth of digital identity in India? This is a question for both of our speakers, Rajat sir as well as GT sir. Rajat sir, I understand you have answered it. Do you want to elaborate it first, and then maybe I can pass it on to GT sir as well?
Yeah, well, quick response on this is yes, I think what India has done is phenomenal. They have paved the way to show the world that how you can onboard 130 million citizens, crore citizens on identity network. And that's tremendous in terms of foundational identity. I think the maximum potential of digital ID can be realized when you have a functional layer on the top, where you offer more and more services based on the foundational identity what you've created. So that's something I would say that as I would say the next steps where we should be looking at to maximize the use cases to offer more and more services to citizens remotely with smartphone, as GT sir has also mentioned.
GT sir, over to you. Anything to add in here with respect to the challenges in the growth?
Yeah, actually, it would be an evolving scenario, and that's what, if you can, say, let's say till 2015-16, first 5-6 years, you have not really seen much of the use part. It's more of allotting the IDs. But if you see in the last 6 years, particularly in the last 3-4 years, it has scaled up significantly, and the government is increasingly, though there are certain legal restrictions, but at least within the boundary, making it voluntary, government is trying to, as Mr. Rajat Maheshwari has said, ultimately, the more we use, the more is the benefit that the government gets out of this platform, what has been built. And I think there is a consistent forward movement on that. And the pace, I would say, is increased. Though in between 1 or 2 years, it kind of slowed down, but I think now it picked up again. And I think we will see the use in a much larger scale as we sort of move ahead. But there will be, there are challenges both legally. Most of them have been overcome through some acts and all that. I think the government has addressed. I think the other challenges, perhaps the government will handle as and when it comes. But there is a clear, probably thinking at the top that this should be used more and more.
Question is for Vamsi sir. So the goal of KYC video identification services is to make life easy for banks and their customers. So how can we go about choosing the right video KYC?
Yeah, so the video KYC is the next big thing in the banking world. Now, with the recent directions of RBI, we just need to have proof of identity and proof of address. Say it is an Aadhaar and a PAN, and just enter into a video call along with the agent. And within 2 minutes of time, we can just onboard a customer using video KYC. However, there's a lot of checks and sums that will happen, whether the citizen is in India or out of India, or there's a lot of IP checks, security checks that are happening around. So at scale, the video KYC, the major challenges that any company today or any bank that is facing is the bandwidth issues with respect to the streaming thing. And the second is about the permissions and consents given by the customer to access the location or to validate the face and all with good lighting conditions and all. So for any bank today to select a right video KYC vendor, the highest big thing that they have to look at is even at a 2G or a 3G kind of speed, the streaming is happening in a very nice way. Second, even with the lowest possible lighting conditions and the camera quality of a mobile phone, still are they able to validate the face with respect to liveness and matching. So considering those aspects, if they have a good pass-through rate for onboarding customer, so no matter how many checks you do at the back end, for the end citizen, it should be a very seamless and easy journey for onboarding, and it should be frictionless. Today we are almost operating video KYC for more than 25 plus fintechs and banks in the industry today from Syntizen side for onboarding customers, even at the remote areas and remote agencies where there is no 4G connectivity or where there is only 3 megapixel kind of camera is available for the smartphone. They are able to onboard into the system pretty easily. So for selecting any vendor, my suggestion is to look at the bandwidth constraints, look at the quality constraints. Even at the lowest possible bandwidth and lowest possible camera quality, the vendor should be able to onboard a customer in a very frictionless way.
Thank you so much for that. One last question is what we'll take for the day and close this Q&A section as well. So, GT sir, this is a question for you. Where what does the future of citizen-centric services look like with the introduction of new age digital identity is a question that we have. So would like to get your comments on that.
Yeah, so, as I think I've explained in the video also, all governments in India and perhaps across the world are basically looking at presenceless, contactless, anytime, anywhere. See, these are the 4 keywords which have to be used in service delivery. So the only way to achieve this is using a digital identity and verifying it, or preferably through a smartphone. So I think this is where all states in India are trying to do. Maybe some states are a little ahead, some are a little behind, but ultimately everyone will catch up this. I mean, there's no doubt on that, because e-governance was a term, let's say now that's not, it's little bit, I would say, outdated. Now people should talk about mGov. So m-governance, all governance should be through a smartphone. So the moment it is through a smartphone, which means the remote identification of digital identity followed by the service delivery. So I think all governments in the country, center as well as states, would certainly be working in that direction. And Telangana, of course, has taken, I would say, a little bit early lead in trying to do and show. Thank you.
Telangana is far ahead with respect to digital identity-based initiatives, sir. We have seen a lot of use cases going online, right from voting to transport to all citizen-centric services, whether it is the pensioners' life certificate. So everything is first of its kind of, and the rest of the country is following the standards or the framework that we are setting up in Telangana. So
thanks, Vamsi. And anyway, for the benefit of that, Vamsi has a role, in the solutions.
Thank you so much, sir. We are always thankful to you for supporting the great initiatives that's happening in Telangana. And Rajat, we are pretty excited to see a global network on cross-border identity, as mainly on how I can prove as an Indian when I go to US or Australia, and how I can prove my identity in a digital way and get instant services, as on how I'm getting the services in India here. The same way, hope one day I'll get a chance to also operate any kind of services, say it is banking or availing a telecom SIM or something in other country as well, with the same layer of trust, with the same speed, one day with your identity network. Wish you all the best on that note.
And Mr. Rajat Maheshwari, Mr. Venkateshwar Rao, and our moderator for the day, Mr. Vamsi Kotte, for the benefit of our community, our Tether community, you took out time to throw some light on future of digital identity in India. So on behalf of the Tether community, M2P Fintech, my co-host Vaishnavi, and me personally, I thank you for being a part of today's panel discussions and enlightening us with a lot of information. Thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much.